Hi, this is Brent Rhymes, CEO of WolfePak Software, and welcome to WolfePak Wednesdays, a weekly webcast series that highlights the latest developments at WolfePak. The goal of WolfePak Wednesdays is to improve communication with our customers and our prospective customers. Each week, we'll cover topics such as new product releases, issues that impact the oil and gas industry, and we'll even take some time to do a little product training. Some weeks we'll host a live Q&A session with the WolfePak Wednesday panelists. We're posting these videos on WolfePak's YouTube channel. To find us, simply go to YouTube and search for WolfePak. Once you found us, please click on the subscribe button so that you'll get notifications each time we post a new video. And if you like a video, please click the like icon down at the bottom. And with that, we'll get started with this week's edition of WolfePak Wednesdays. Welcome to WolfePak Wednesday, episode 6. This week, we're going to discuss some of the oil and gas accounting services that are available to WolfePak customers and prospective customers from one of our most valued partners. And to discuss that, I have a special guest with me this week, Jordan Driskell, Vice President of Sales and Marketing with PetroLedger. Jordan, welcome to WolfePak Wednesdays.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're glad that you're here. So, Jordan, of course, you and I have known each other for quite some time, but why don't you spend a little bit of time describing your background to the WolfePak Wednesday audience?
Sure. So, I've got out of high school, finished college, served in the U.S. Air Force, was in Iraq and Afghanistan for a bit. Worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for a while, but 5 years in fact, in their customer success organization. Then went on to become an assistant controller at Taiga Boats for a few years before I came to WolfePak. Worked with you for about 6 years or so. So we have quite a background, a sordid background. I was your director of professional services. I started off in customer success, moved up to eventually run the pro services organization. And then weirdly came over to, at the time, Eddie Dryer, which is now part of PetroLedger. It was sort of an interesting transition because they wanted to start a sales and marketing team, and weirdly running the WolfePak professional services made me kind of a good guy for the job because I know, as you recall, I ran all of the sales and scoping for WolfePak's professional services sales process. So oddly enough, I was the right guy for the job, but my background is certainly more operational management than sales and marketing, but here we are.
Well, we miss you, Jordan, but we're very happy that you went to Eddie Dryer, now PetroLedger, and kind of to introduce that topic, why don't you tell us a little bit about, PetroLedger's story?
Sure. So the very brief nutshell of it is, PetroLedger has existed since about May 1st or so. Might have been June 1st on the paperwork. It's effectively a merger between the two companies that Avisto Capital had prior. And so to go a little further back, Avisto Capital is a series of partners based out of San Antonio. They're all oil and gas industry guys, super guys to work with and for. They decided to get into the services business, and so they bought Eddie Dryer Financial Services 2 or 3 years ago when Eddie retired. Eventually, a couple of years later, they decided it was so much fun they wanted to do it again. So they picked up the resource group out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we've kind of been talking about it really for at least as long as I've been here. I started a little over a year ago, right at a year ago, a year and 5 days, I guess. But we were talking about how these are two businesses that do effectively the same exact thing. They're transaction processing companies that are both working with the mid and the upstream market, and they're providing accounting and transactional services. And while the respective managers of each of these companies would kill me for saying it, but from a sales and marketing standpoint, they do the same thing for the same client base. So between that plus just the logistics, as you well know, of running multiple different divisions that kind of were in the same space, 2 different sets of IT contracts, 2 different sets of payroll processing, all that sort of stuff. It didn't make a lot of sense to keep them separate from a marquee standpoint. So we brought them together, which enables us to have a a really powerful offering to the market. So we've got 80 plus employees at this point, about 350 to 400 clients across the spectrum. And yeah, we've been focusing midstream, upstream, regulatory is kind of our big market.
Yeah, well, very good. And I love the name PetroLedger. Whoever did your rebranding project gets 5 stars on that. So I was looking up the partnership with PetroLedger, which of course formerly, as you mentioned, was Eddie Dreyer, and it goes back to 1996, and that certainly predates you and my time at both WolfePak and Eddie Dreyer. That's a pretty old partnership. Which makes, of course, PetroLedger our most experienced partner with WolfePak's oil and gas accounting product line. Can you tell the folks out there just a little bit about some of the services that you provide for the WolfePak product suite?
Absolutely. So we have a long-standing partnership with WolfePak that, as you just said, predates you and I by a couple of decades. So again, most of our work kind of revolves around the transactional side of the business. We do a fair amount of data conversion work, as well as training and consulting type work and that kind of thing. Again, focusing mostly in the mid and upstream. We have a number of, and you know this, there's been for literally at least a decade that I can speak to. There's been a cross-pollination of talent between WolfePak and originally Eddie Dreyer and PetroLedger now. We have folks over here that worked for me when I was at WolfePak, and it's kind of gone back and forth over the years. That's not a new thing. So the talent between these two companies has got a lot of history, and that's really been beneficial, I think, to both of us, honestly.
Could not agree more. Could not agree. Certainly has led to a very tight partnership between the two companies, no doubt. Well, I know that you guys do a lot more than just providing consulting services for our product line. Maybe you can describe a little. I mean, if I'm a WolfePak customer, or if I'm a WolfePak prospective customer, and I'm kind of debating between either doing this stuff in house or partnering with a firm like PetroLedger to do those services. Describe some of the things that you can do.
Absolutely. So obviously what we like to do is the grunt work that you guys, the prospective clients, don't want to. Nobody gets excited in the morning about waking up and doing a few thousand AP invoices, running revenue cycles and all of that. It's part of the job that has to happen. But I mean, go ask any E&P operator that's a former geologist what they think of their accounting staff, and they're just like, it's got to happen. We make that happen. That's what we want to do, and quite good at it as well, I would say. For most of our client space, like I said, we don't really do anything in the downstream sector too much. We've stayed crude and gas midstream, as well as upstream at every level, from family offices to very large operators. Our primary basis has been, like I said, upstream and midstream on both sides. We don't do so much with the downstream. And recently, we've actually brought on our first couple of renewable energy clients as well. I mean, the name may say PetroLedger, but we can do all of this. And in fact, I would say that, as much as Greenpeace probably wouldn't want to admit this, I think renewable energy is going to inherit a lot of its accounting and regulatory from what's existed in the oil and gas spectrum for quite a while. So we've used that to our advantage. We've helped a few of these renewable companies. And like I said, when it comes to transaction processing and just running your accounting, whether it's a big piece or a little piece, that's what we like doing.
Very good. Well, there are other firms, of course, like we all have competitors. You guys have competitors. You got a captive audience here. Tell us what sets PetroLedger apart.
Sure. So if you think of it in terms of the 3 original universal currencies, right? Time, money, and flexibility, and the very infrequently thought of flexibility, there's a few things that we offer that I think are really useful. At the end of the day, our prices are, from a market standpoint, very competitive. And historically, that's been one of our big wins. But the other thing that you tap into that is the amount of experience. Again, we have a lot of WolfePak alumni. We have a lot of people who have either worked with, for, or at WolfePak for years and years and years, which gives us a tremendous bench. The other thing we've got that's really useful is flexibility. If you're upscaling, downscaling, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as you well know, and all our audience knows, the oil and gas industry is both cyclical and fast moving. So, as we've seen the price of oil and gas, it's changed dramatically, even in 14 months. We've gone from negative $30 to 70, whatever it is this morning. And, people act surprised every time this happens. I've been in the industry long enough. You've been in the industry. We've all seen this go up and down. It's cyclical. It's always going to do that. What we can offer to our clients is the ability. You call me up and say, hey, we just acquired 300 new wells. What are we going to do? I'm going to call ops and we're going to move over a couple of more folks to staff up your account a little bit deeper. Call me up and say, hey, we've offloaded 50 wells. What are we going to do? I'll allocate this guy's time someplace else, or this person's time. We can move people around very, very easily to beef up or lighten the load on an account as needed. And it's very, very easy. That's one of the things that outsourcing in general really allows you to do. So that flexibility is one of the key things. The other thing, and I used to make this joke all the time over the past year, is, you can have your company, one critical linchpin goes on vacation and all of a sudden you're scrambling. The lights don't go out at PetroLedger. Now, I said that joke in February. Texas got destroyed by a snowstorm. And so I can no longer say the lights don't go out, but barring a national catastrophe, the lights at PetroLedger don't go out. We have the resources. We have very deep benches, and anything that involves the midstream and the upstream. And so that's one of the other things. You have one AP person that walks off the job. Well, that's not a problem. You have somebody go on vacation. That's not a problem here. I've got 5 or 6 people that can replace anybody when it comes to accounting knowledge. The regulatory side, we got a deep bench there. So that's one thing. The other thing, and we all know this, is that hiring on a staff is not a cheap prospect when you get right down to it. There's the stuff that shows up on the P&L, the salaries, the 401k, the health insurance, all of these things that, you and I see on a P&L, but there's also the invisible costs that you just don't see a lot of, but suck up your time. I mean, you and I, Brent, know from our time working together, how many hours did we spend dealing with a random HR issue or a random Johnny doesn't like Jimmy issue that sucks up our valuable time, right? And any manager knows this. There's all these other elements. There's the quarterbacking, there's the HR stuff, there's that aspect, and there's very real cost to executives and managers that goes into that you don't see on a P&L, but it's a very real cost. You outsource to PetroLedger, that's not your problem, that's my problem. And lastly, as again, you and I both know, what is one of the other huge invisible time sinks in having a staff? Finding talent, hiring the talent, and retaining the talent. Make that my problem, not your problem. And at the end of the day, that's the pitch.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially in this constrained labor market within oil and gas. I mean, sure, the labor market loosens whenever the price goes down, or you have a 2020, but it tightens back up really, really quick whenever you have to scale back up and you're back into the boom phase. And that's just because there's fewer folks that are going into oil and gas, especially oil and gas accounting. And I think I saw where the average age is pushing 50 for oil and gas office workers. So, I can see where it would make a lot of sense, especially as we're, back on an upswing for organizations that are looking to quickly scale up, where they would lean on you guys, if not only for scaling up, but also for business continuity, right? As
yes.
Just to cover, and to augment staff. I could totally see.
No single point of failure. And at the end of the day, we've been very lucky. We've actually spent the first half of this year really aggressively getting some folks hired up. Because as you said, the average age of accountants in the oil and gas industry is in a demographic that's a bit above mine,
Yeah.
shall we say.
Yeah.
And so we've been very successful in not only having the folks who are very seasoned and very experienced on staff that have been with us for decades, but we also have been very good about recruiting new talent that's young and that's interested in getting in this industry and wants to make a name for themselves and wants to learn how to do it. And, we brought on a number of folks this past year that's going to be the future of this organization and the future of the oil and gas industry. And it's good to see some young blood coming in.
Very good. Well, Jordan, if folks want to find out more about PetroLedger, where do they go?
So I would obviously encourage you to check out our website, www.petro-ledger.com. It's got a good list of our services, how you can get in touch with us. We make it very easy to get in touch with us on our website. Plenty of contact us buttons, phone numbers, all that good stuff. We have some white papers available, blog available, that we put content up very regularly. In fact, I've got a blog that I owe my marketing guy here sometime this week, so he'll be hounding me for that. And in fact, speaking of my marketing guy, I would be remiss if I didn't tell everyone to check us out on LinkedIn, follow us, and all of that. If I don't mention that, he'll hunt me down.
Exactly. Well, Jordan, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on WolfePak Wednesdays. Thank you to the entire PetroLedger team. You guys have been great partners throughout the years, and we look forward to many, many more years in the future. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of WolfePak Wednesdays. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next WolfePak Wednesday.
Thank you so much.